Good afternoon, dental internet world. My name is Dr. Vishal Sharma, and I'm once again here alongside my friend and colleague, Dr. Mike Parchewski. Mike, it's a beautiful day in Calgary, Alberta. It feels like we were in winter only a week ago, and we've entered really a new season, if you will. And if that's not a great segue into our newest podcast with our guest from Nutooth, I don't know what is.
Great. Thanks, Vish. Good to see you. It's been a bit of delay, so we've been traveling quite a bit. I definitely feel this 2023 has been that return to education. And with us today to talk about getting more dentists into digital education is Christien Kopas. Christien is from Schell Dental Labs in the Kelowna area, and she comes to us with a product called Nutooth, and she's going to talk about that and a lot of the other different types of technology she trains on. And I know Christien, she's a digital implementation specialist and also a practice management consultant. So she does have a lot of background in dentistry, helping dentists to get better with digital technology. So welcome, Christien.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, Christien, you kind of have a dual role because I know you're helping a dental lab launch a new product, which is what we're going to get into and talk about. But also you have a history of being a trainer, educator. I know dentists that have learned from you on how to use their scanners better. And so I think this new role that you've taken on is very exciting. But tell us about your roles. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to the Nutooth project.
Okay. So my background, I used to be a dental assistant, and I did that many years ago. But as I developed, I worked for different companies such as Orem Dental Ceramic. Actually, I had all of Alberta and British Columbia as my territory, a local lab here in Calgary. And I realized that dentistry was changing. It was very exciting, but I didn't just want to be a dental assistant. I also wanted to do different things and to become a consultant of any at all, which is actually what I really wanted to do, is help dentists to grow their businesses. You had to do some travel. So I worked for different companies, doing different education, doing different training. And then I got into the training realm by working with a company called Argin. Argin actually purchased a company called Castle Mills in Kelowna. They were the largest metal manufacturer in the world. That's where a lot of dentists get their gold and they do refining. But when they purchased Castle Mills, they wanted to become more digital. They wanted to be part of that digital realm. And so they ended up taking the 3-Shape Trios on, and they had the rights for it for all of Canada. So I realized that it was definitely part of the future, and I went across Canada implementing that scanner and realized that dentists needed the support. Dentistry back then, 10 years ago, only about 5 to 8% of dentists were digital at all. So implementing an intraoral scanner was challenging back then. It's not as tough as it is now. It's a little more than that, but that's kind of how I got started. And then I joined Schell and started to grow their learning center by implementing training and education to associates and dental assistants, basically.
Well, it's quite the interesting story. I think you've clearly articulated how you got into the dental field and what that progression and evolution has certainly been from assisting to consulting. What are the big challenges that you're facing right now in this more accepting digital world of dentistry? Obviously, 10 years ago, I can imagine it would have been really trailblazing and trying to convince people that this was the future. Now that we know that it's not just the future, it's the present. What are the major challenges that you're facing?
I would say implementation. I would say the fear of going digital is real. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I realized that it would be actually Jonathan and Jamie Schell realized bringing me on board, but offering free training other than just training by dental companies selling scanners, but saying, you know what, if you want to try a scanner, any scanner on the market, come and do it. We'll do it for free. We'll train you on Fridays, any Friday. This Friday is iTero training. Next Friday is Trios training. Next Friday is OmniCam training before it was PrimeScan. And so we did that because we knew that dental teams, new associates, new dental assistants, they needed support to learn how to get everybody digital. If we could start from the supportive team and go up, we knew that then dentists would feel comfortable with that change. And actually, we went from our customers, we went from about 10% digital to 80% digital now, which is unheard of as customers for a dental lab. So
Yeah.
we knew that that was the main challenge. You'd
expect almost the opposite percentage, actually. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I can echo that role of implementation into it is huge, right? I still remember it actually was a dentist from the Kelowna area that I got into an argument with at PDC a few years back when he was trying to tell me that he saw one of my lectures on digital and he kind of came at me as, digital technology mumbo jumbo, and then how fast he can do polyvinyls, and polyvinyls are more accurate. And it's just funny, like, how that has changed from 2019, which is not that long ago, to today. That conversation wouldn't even happen, right? So and it's
only getting, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's only getting more accurate, as we know.
Yeah.
I mean, we keep hearing how, artificial intelligence and the abilities of intraoral scanners, they're unbelievable now.
Mike, is this the same guy that you got into the argument with about how you were saying that Napa cabs are better than Okanagan Merlots, or is this a completely different person?
I think it's probably the same one. Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about the lab business for you guys at Schell Labs and how you guys have evolved, because I've often, with Vishal and myself, we're constantly doing in-office crowns, we're doing same day dentistry, and I'm often looking how are labs surviving? What are they doing to keep relevant and to be supportive? Obviously, I know on the front of training and helping them to implement. But how else have you guys evolved as a lab to continue to be, preeminent in the business?
Well, I think they brought me on really to implement digital, but we also realized that the longer a temporary crown, as you know, milling in office, the longer that a temporary crown sits in the mouth, the more that teeth can move and shift. So we knew that if we implemented a digital workflow, such as the new company we have, Nutooth, and we shipped our crowns out within 24 hours, we knew that as a dental lab, it would decrease our issues with fit and remakes, right? Because, remakes are a certain amount with PVS. We know that there's inaccuracies between a PVS and a stone model and having to cut dies by hand. So we knew that was a challenge, and we thought, well, what can we do so that we can decrease the amount of remakes and the amount of challenges a dentist has chairside? So that's something that we implemented is a 24-hour turnaround for a crown. Not just that, but what we're implementing now is we're noticing, I was just at Chicago Lab Day, and I was at Lab Day and I went to the dentist show. So I went on the exhibit floor and I watched what dental labs and what other companies are promoting to dentists. And as we know, it's 3D printing. So we know that 3D printing as a dental lab, we have robots actually that run our 3D printers through the rinsing processes. We know that they're not that easy. So we thought, well, another thing that we're beta testing right now is becoming part of that 3D printing process, where if a dentist wants to get their own designs or design their own products, we're more than happy to be your 3D printing service. But then you go ahead and finish them and then see how that feels. See if you like it. See if you like taking things and polishing them and cutting the sprues off. We'd love to be that third party. And that's sort of where we're also going, I would say, is trying to support dentists in 3D printing. If you want to print them, you go right ahead. We just know that it's probably not that easy.
Interesting. And so a question then, with some of the innovations, obviously you're giving the dentist the capacity to send designs to you and you're manufacturing them.
Yes.
Is the reverse also true? Are you able to take scans from dentists and then design something and send it back to them for manufacturing?
100%.
Yeah. And so that would typically be in obviously aesthetic cases, appliances,
Smile
et cetera.
design, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what portion would you say is that of the lab business?
That's actually what we're just beta testing now. That
Okay.
is just something we're just starting with a few of our close clients. The wonderful thing about Nutooth is that we have people that are very digital and their digital acumen is quite high. And when you phone them up and you say, okay, well, If you want to design something yourself, like, okay, iTero now has the ability to take a smile design and automatically export an STL to a dental lab or to themselves for printing. So send it, give it to us. If you want to do all that, please, we'd be happy to give that a try. So it's sort of, that's what we're beginning to do. But that's not part of the Nutooth workflow now, but definitely coming.
Exciting time, yeah.
So maybe let's get the rabbit out of the hat here, and let's just tell us. I know about Nutooth, and that's why we're excited to bring you on. But just tell us about the concept of Nutooth in a nutshell. What is it about, and how is that helping the dentist?
Sure. So Nutooth really is a 24-hour turnaround for full contour zirconia, EMAX, crowns, anterior and posterior. It's also a 24-hour turnaround for Thermoflex night guards. We do custom abutments and crowns for Straumann, Nobel, and Dentsply Astra in 48 hours. But that's a product, right? Nutooth's more than a product, it's an actual service. So when we implement a customer for a Nutooth workflow, it's really not just about a quick turnaround crown. It's actually about chairside support that allows you to know that the case that you're sending is going to result in the product you want. So we implemented something called Lab Chat, and Lab Chat for a new customer or any customer of ours allows a dentist to immediately submit their intraoral scan, know that they can turn to the right and use their computer and just sort of go, hey, how does this look? Would you please take a look? And as a new user or a new user to digital or a new user to Nutooth, we can actually take a look at that scan immediately, which we do. We give them immediate feedback, which the patient has no idea. And then they're able to make those changes and also learn what Nutooth needs and what digital needs so that we can make sure that the product's the best.
So that's kind of like, that margin needs to be better.
Exactly.
Mike, switch from your 2.5 to your 4.5 loops, or would they just reply, "Are you kidding me?"
This is giving me PTSD with dental school, actually. So what was our marking scale?
8 out of 10, or the letter scale.
True. And it's actually quite fun because it's really great because when they do have a margin that's going over, or they'll apologize before they even send it, they'll go, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's a really tough one. And guess what? We know that. And we're good at what we do. So we know that we can work with what it is that we get most of the time. But yeah, if you can go back and just do something to change that, we find that that's pretty helpful.
Of course, it improves your end result. Mike and I are obviously big into single visit crowns. And one of the things I love is the instantaneous feedback when you're designing that. But in multiple restoration cases, we're typically not designing it at the same time. It's just not feasible. So I guess having that person over chat would be certainly really, really helpful. Like I said, you just have to get over the psychology of deep-seated fears from dental school.
Yeah.
So, Christien, tell us how a dentist who would be interested in this component. I can think of a number who are on the cusp of going digital, but are concerned about having to design themselves. It's just not within their digital acumen, as you mentioned. How can they get involved with Nutooth?
Number one, go digital. And the support that we offer going digital can either be remote or on site. And try it. Try an intraoral scanner. Get comfortable with it first. Once you're comfortable with it, we actually train you to become a Nutooth user. And it's almost like a university. You sort of say, okay, here's the first step. Then the next step is this next step. And then once they become Nutooth, or they want to become Nutooth, if they're not digital, we get them there. If they are digital, they basically go to nutooth.ca. The nice thing is when you put in your data, you can just say what scanner you have, and we can connect with you. You do not necessarily have to find us. We can actually, if you give us your information, we can say, okay, you got an iTero, we can set up. If you've got a prime scan, we can connect with you.
And so what would those training steps be? Obviously, assuming someone has some proficiency with utilizing an intraoral scanner, they're set up with one, but they're missing the follow-up flow there. They're either not prepared to do it themselves, or they have not really set themselves up with a lab that offers the fast turnaround. What would the next steps of training be?
It would mostly be do lab chat.
Yeah,
because
okay.
we want to make sure that we're giving you the best product, but also we're going to train you chairside on what to give us. And so always an intraoral scan that gives us a pre-prep is extremely important for Nutooth, right? We want to know what was there before. We want to know if there were any wear or abfractions, or we want to know what the occlusion was like. And also, for Nutooth, give us a scan of the bite before that patient is frozen is key. Because if they can give us a bite before they're frozen, that's an actual pre-prep bite. That gives us the most accurate data. That plus the pre-prep plus it's absolutely huge for Nutooth, and actually for any lab. If you give any lab that, they would.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
I know your next question, you're going to be critical because it's only available during business hours. So on that like 11 p.m. Friday night when you just have to prep a crown, it's not going to work. The lab shots, no one's going to be there.
It's like crickets. Yeah.
Oh,
Although I know Jonathan at the lab will be there.
So, I was going to say.
So Jonathan, I'm 11 p.m.
You and Jonathan lead a better life, I think.
Yeah.
Mike.
Now, one of the things that we've often talked about when we lecture is that crown design can be based on ideal form, that immediate dent and sealing, the very conservative prep, minimal prep design, all of these big words that are out there, in the ecosystem of dentistry that is, modern planning, as opposed to the full coverage restorations. Now, when you go to a crown in one appointment, you can be very conservative because you have no concern about your temporary. What I like about this approach too, and I want to get your feedback on what your dentists are doing, but what I like about it is 24 hours, we only have to have a temp to make it 24 hours. So we're in that where we can still be extremely conservative because we're not going to create gingival irritation in 24 hours. Like we can be fast. So what are your dentists doing for temps on non-conservative or on very conservative prep designs? What are they doing for temporaries?
Sometimes they don't even do them, especially if they're root canal teeth. They're actually letting the patient go, please don't chew on this side, and then getting them back the next day. There's also a few dentists that are utilizing a 3M temp. It's a preformed temp, so you don't have to do a impression in advance. It's very quick. We've done a timing where you've done an alginate impression and then made your temp. Those 3M temps are unbelievable for time, and they don't need to be polished. You basically they're the preformed, they're unbelievable. And that is something that we are considering including in our Nutooth cases because we believe that the speed of utilizing those is astronomical, actually.
Yeah, and you actually sent me one of those to try out, and literally you basically place it over the prep. It's kind of semi-set, and you can mold it into place, cure it, and then you've got yourself your temp. It was pretty slick. Yeah.
Yeah. They're quite handy.
Yeah. 2-3 minutes, and no integrity was my excitement there.
And so I know the Nutooth website discusses very specifically the materials utilized, but do you want to tell our listeners what predominant materials you guys are using with these?
Sure. Full contour zirconia. And we do layered. It's of course in the pucks. They're beautiful. They're already multi-layered. We do finish them by hand. We do a lot of handwork on them as well, just to make sure that they're perfect. We do thermal night guards, so those are heat activated. We also do custom abutments and crowns for Straumann, Dentsply, and Nobel with full contour zirconia crowns as well.
And those are your 48 hour turnaround?
They're 48-hour turnaround, yes.
Okay.
And so walk us through the smile design component. Like if we're interested in, say, an 8 or a 10 unit case, what would that workflow be? Obviously, the patient comes in, there's preoperative scans and images taken that get sent to the laboratory. What happens after that?
Actually, smile design is quite intense. It does take quite an expert. We do have anterior specialists that deal with stuff like that. But we need full facial photos and balanced. We need to make sure that almost like a grid on the wall where you can actually make sure that the patient's shoulders and head are straight. Mm-hmm. We need smiling, and then retracted smile would be the best, like exaggerated smile. That's pretty much it. That's really all you need for smile design. I do have to say, though, I get called into the offices a lot for smile design cases, especially immediate dentures. So what people are utilizing, I don't know if you guys have heard the iVosmile app.
I've heard of it. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's astronomical. It is so, so good. It's worth the $99 a year because you can virtually place a smile in someone's face in 3D, and you can move the face and they can speak and talk with those virtual teeth in the mouth. And what we've noticed is smile design, I mean, iTero has it, Trios has it, multiple different intraoral scanners have the opportunity to do chairside smile design. We notice most people don't. It is quite time consuming. So the iVosmile, especially if you have somebody that is doing a immediate denture, it can choose denture teeth, the ivoclar teeth. It can place them in their face virtually. And every single time I've gone into one of our clients' offices with an iPad or an iPhone, and I've done that app with the patient, every single time they've accepted. And so at the lab, when we get that smile, it actually overlays a little bit of the tooth design for us so that we can take a look at that and say, okay, is that actually viable? Will we be able to use that on the intraoral scans that we get, right? It's a really interesting app, and it's very AI. It's very, it really wows the patients.
What's the turnaround time on an 8-unit case?
Smile design, oh gosh, I would say at least a week.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is quite a specific.
Yeah, I like the concept of digital smile design and the ability for dentists to get that fast turnaround. I'll have to check out that app. That sounds pretty cool because
I took some notes on it.
Yeah, because it's for us, patients are more demanding. Dentists are more demanding, right? Dentists want things faster. Patients want things faster. And so when we can show them the smile design right there in the chair, it's huge. I do know, like with the Prime Scan and InLab, you can do smile design, and it is neat and interesting, and it's not that hard to do, and you can get good at it. But I do find it still kind of looks 2D-ish. It still looks a little gimmicky. Whereas, so I'm really interested in seeing that where you can kind of give them something that looks a little bit more live, 3-dimensional, and on the spot is pretty powerful stuff. Now, is there anything else you guys are doing exciting on the horizon, or what else is coming down the pipeline?
We are expanding our services. I can't really say exactly what that is. Definitely 3D printing is becoming a huge part of what dentists are looking at. So that is going to be part of our services. As I said, we're beta testing. We are looking at doing more, I would say more intraoral scanner training. We've launched a rental program where we really are supporting dentists in going digital. They can rent a scanner from us for $500 a month. After a year, you just give it back. But what that does is it allows them, either if you have an existing intraoral scanner and you want to give it to your hygienist, you want to talk to them about soft tissue management, it allows them to have access to our services as well as use more of their team if you have a scanner and you have more scanners in the market.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. It's all about getting dentists incorporated into digital technology, something that I think we know a little bit about. Isn't that right, Vish?
Mike has that tattoo on the small of his back. It's awkward, but
hang on.
He's firmly in belief of that concept. Well, we're really interested to hear what maybe some of the more cloak and dagger undertakings will be at some point. So you'll have to come back and visit us. And Christine, I see that you brought Mike and I some Emax crowns. Is that right?
Some local Okanagan wine.
Oh, wow. Almost much better than a Shade A3.5 restoration. So very, very...
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. The amazing thing is that you knew that after spending an afternoon with Mike, I have to drink. That's the most remarkable part of all this. Christine, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming in to chat with us, and we're excited to see what Nutooth and your organization has to offer in the near future.
Great. Thanks, Vish. Thanks, Christine. For everybody out there who wants to know more about this, see nutooth.ca. And I do know they have a QR code there too that it can launch you right in, and they're ready to support you going digital. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please like or subscribe on YouTube at Digital Dentist. Our Instagram is at Digital Workflow Dentistry, where you can find links to our bios, links to upcoming lectures and webinars, and everything digital. Thanks everybody.